want to say more about this program, and I just want to wish you all the best. And I hope this will be a very enriching program for all participants and the viewers through YouTube. Thank you very much. And I inaugurate this webinar uh, with much happiness. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, His Grace Metropolitan, for your valuable message and presence. Now, it's our turn to introduce our main speaker. So, I invite Ms. Maria Matthew, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Applications, Holy Cross College of Management and Technology, for introducing our resource person. Over to you, Ms.
Now, I would like to introduce our resource person, Ms. Raji Ramakrishnan Nair, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Computer Applications, Marine College, Kuttikanam. She has 15 years of teaching experience and she is a postgraduate and currently pursuing her PhD from Lovely Professional University, Jalandhar. She has published a book named A Quick Reference to Data Structures and Computer Algorithms, an insight on the beauty of blockchain. She has actively involved in many social causes. She has helped many of the flood affected people and resulted in 3 houses being built for flood victims. I am very proud that I have been a student of ma'am. Now I turn over the time to our main speaker, Ms. Raji Ramakrishnan Nair of this international webinar blockchain. Over to you, Ms.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Chairman of the college, Acha, for the warm welcome. And thank you for inviting me as a resource person for this webinar. And I wholeheartedly welcome each of the participants who have joined right now for this webinar. I want to share one thing here. Please mute all your mic, and if you have any doubts during the session, you can put your doubts in the chat box. I will be explaining those doubts later. Thank you. And let's start the webinar. Here, first of all, I want to tell one thing, that I am taking the basic concepts of blockchain. And I will be taking examples of Bitcoin blockchain. And also will cover the basics of Bitcoin. So before starting or before going into the depth of the Bitcoin blockchain technology, I will be here sharing you where all, in what all problems, the problems where this blockchain technology are being used. Okay. Someone is sharing, excuse me, someone is sharing their presentation. Please don't do this. Hope my presentation is visible. Am I visible to you? My presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I request all the participants, please don't share any presentation during the session. Thank you. Let us start the session. First of all, I want to share the agenda of this webinar. Following are the agenda for this webinar. Before moving to the topic, I want to know how many of you know about the term blockchain, or how many of you have gone through about the blockchain technology. If you have any idea about blockchain, please put yes or no in the chat box so that I can understand how many of you know about the term blockchain. Okay, many responses are coming. Thank you for the responses. So moving to the topic, I want to put a question before you. How do we tell if something is fake or real in today's world? The question is, how do we tell if something is fake or real in today's world? Any explanation how you are going to check whether something is real or fake? If you are provided with a certificate of some university, how you are going to identify whether it is a fake or real one? Any shortcuts for them for that? By experimenting, by experience, by going through the real site. Okay, so many responses are coming. So suppose I'm taking here some examples. Let us take, you have an Indian rupee with you and a driver's license with you. Also, a voter's ID with you. So the question starts again, how do we determine whether it's valid or not? Yeah, there is a, as the answer is, we keep a record of it. When you want to find whether this Indian rupee is fake or not, you are going to communicate, or you are going to have the communication with the corresponding authorities. Like for checking this, whether this Indian rupee is fake or not, you will certainly go to the bank and check whether it is okay or not, whether it is fake or real one. That means each Indian rupee has a serial number. You know that this Indian rupee has got a serial number which is unique and which is safely recorded by the bank. Similarly, in case of the driver's license, you will find a unique identification number in the driver's license. All those driver's license number is recorded in the database, which is controlled by the government of India in case of our country. And in case of the voter's ID, you will find a unique ID number in the voter's ID. All these voting records are used to track who voted and who didn't, so that the same person will not be able to vote for twice. So what I meant to explain here, if you want to identify whether something is fake or real, you are going to meet the corresponding authorities and check with them. Okay, so whenever you want to check whether these documents are valid or not, you usually check with the corresponding authorities. So we here in case of India, we have notaries, we have gazetted officers, which are licensed by the government of India, and they are acting as witnesses to attest and record the validity of pieces of information or identities. You may have many experiences with notaries or some of the gazetted officers. When you have to attest your certificates, you usually go to the gazetted officer. And when the gazetted officer attests your certificate, that means you can share that information anywhere because it becomes valid. So you may have noticed here that there is one thing in common in all the mentioned mechanisms. Yeah, they are centralized, which means there is a central authority. In case of the rupee, there is a bank. In case of the driver's license, there are some government offices. In case of voter's ID, there are some government offices, and also some persons will be associated with that has the power to issue and validate information. As you know that these authorities have lot of power. So since you know that when you go to the bank, it has got its own power. When you go to the government offices, it has got its own power. They have lot of power, which led to corruption sometimes. Suppose what happens if one of the authorities want to change the facts? This may sound unconvincing to you, but history shows lot of real world examples to us where facts were distorted by those in power. There was a severe worldwide financial crisis. You may heard about the global financial crisis, which occurred in the year 2007-2008, which led to Great Recession, a global recession. Blockchain was early. That means it also came like the internet in the year 1990s. It can be as large as an internet. Can you specify any of the use cases of internet? I want responses on the cases of use cases of internet. Please give some responses.
I didn't get you, ma'am. Could you please repeat it?
Can you give some examples of use cases of internet?
Huge cases.
Use cases.
Yeah,
the lot of responses are coming. Mail is there, social media is there, e-commerce is there, social networking, banking, etc. Okay, so but This blockchain, can we say this blockchain is a use case of internet? No, we cannot say. It is not considered as a use case of internet, but it is considered as fundamental and parallel to internet. Okay, this term blockchain sounds very simple, but it is indeed a complex technology to understand. But this technology has got the power to change our lives in the next 10 to 15 years, the same way internet has changed our lives 30 years ago. So what is a blockchain? Can anyone give some information regarding blockchain in the comment section? Any definition regarding blockchain? If this question is asked to you, what is blockchain? What will be your answer? Okay. Connection of databases, Bitcoin through nodes. It is a secure distributed ledger. Thank you for the responses. Usually when you go and search the net, you will find that it is a technology behind Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, Ether, etc. But that doesn't actually define a blockchain. It will be just like saying that internet is a technology used behind email or e-commerce, etc., which is not going to define an internet. So blockchain is a big thing as our internet. There are different ways to think about blockchain. The only way to think about blockchain is thinking about a ledger. Do you know what is a ledger? Those who have financial experiences or financial businesses, those who are doing, they have experiences with ledger. Do you have any idea what is a ledger? You may found this type of register somewhere in the offices. Yes, it is a financial records. A ledger is nothing, but it is a principal book or computer files for recording and totaling economic transactions, which is measured in terms of monetary unit of account. All the financial transactions are written in this ledger. We are maintaining this ledger for the financial transactions in any cases of businesses. Ledger plays a key role in every transaction that we do. Whatever we own, it has to be get entered in a ledger. For example, the money that we transfer from America to India is not something like money is flying from America to India. What all happening in that transaction is only the simple ledger entries that occurred in the Bank of America as well as in the Bank of India, and plus so many other ledger entries that occurred intermediary in the transaction. Hope this is clear to all of you. Some banks present in the America, some banks present in the India, and some intermediaries are taking place, or such transactions are taking place during this transaction of money from America to India. There are a bunch of ledgers owned by banks, regulators, insurance agencies, money transferring institutions, etc. in this transaction process. And each of these ledgers need to be reconciled and changed at the end. Because here in such transaction, so many changes occurred intermediary, there is a chance of friction, which led to time delay as well as affect the cost of the transaction adversely. Since when you tried to transfer the money from America to India, lot of ledger entries happened during the transaction. It led to chance of friction, and because of that time delay occurred, and because of that cost also increased. So let us take example that you have sent $100 from America to your friend in India. Your friend will receive only $95 to $98, that too not instantly, but with a time delay of 4 to 5 days. Hope you have understood this example. If any doubt still exists, please put that in the comment section. The internet has solved many problems for us. Many big problems were solved for us. It has solved our information problem with search. It has solved our distribution problem with Amazon, YouTube, etc. It also solved our communication problem. We have email, messenger, WhatsApp, etc. for faster and easier communication. These are the problems which are solved by internet, information, distribution, and communication. There were two major issues that the internet was supposed to solve, but it didn't. But one is the trust problem. How many of you actually trust internet? Do you trust internet fully? What all coming in the internet is valid, or some of them is valid? Okay, most of you are telling no, you can't trust internet. Yes, we come across so much of fake news, fake profiles are there, fake money transactions happens, and what not are happening in the internet. And the second problem that the internet didn't solve is the intermediation problem, that the big intermediaries will go away, that the small man will come up, that there will be a level playing field. But you know what this internet did? It has created far more big intermediaries. You may have heard about a lot of big intermediaries, and every day we are using that intermediaries: Amazon, Facebook, Google, Uber, Microsoft, etc. These companies have become super powerful intermediaries, and we suppose them to be true peer-to-peer company. You know what happened in the taxi ride service in the past, during the past 30 or 40 years ago? When you want to hire a taxi, what you are going to do? We usually go to the taxi place where cars are placed in the town, and we will hire one taxi. Okay, but there we have a peer-to-peer communication. That means taxi and rider is there. No other intermediary was there. But what is the situation right now? But now it has become peer to Uber, Uber to peer. So that intermediary came. Hope this is the intermediation problem you understood. Blockchain excites the present world because it promises to solve those issues that the internet couldn't, the trust problem and the intermediation problem, and bring back a true honest to goodness peer-to-peer economy. Blockchain has changed the concept of trust. It has changed the concept of trust from centralized to distributed. Let me explain this with an example. Actually, this blockchain is like our Ayalkutam or kitty party. In case in Kerala, we have Ayalkutam like kitty party. I'm sure all of you know about this Ayalkutam. This is, you can see the figures of Ayalkutam. What is happening in such gathering of women? Some fixed number of women come together, have tea and snacks. They make and execute their business plans, and also some money exchanging is happening. This money factor is important here. At every gathering, each woman will put some fixed amount, suppose 10 rupees. And after, say, 10 such consecutive gatherings, they will have a lucky draw. And one among them will get 120 rupees. Again, another round of such money exchanging happens, and one woman will be lucky enough to get the money, and this process goes on. And here in this process, you can see there is no bank, no superwoman is there, and no central power to control. If you are one among those women, whom you are going to trust during this money exchanging process? Someone has a...
Madam, activity is not visible, ma'am.
Someone has shared. Okay, let me see. In the, I request the participants, please don't share your presentation during the session. Someone has done this. I will resume. Hope now it is clear to you. Is it visible?
No, ma'am.
Yes,
Kitty party.
yes, it's visible. Kitty party.
Yes.
So I was asking if you are the one person
Visible,
among
ma'am.
those whom you are going to trust in this money exchanging process. Of course, you are going to trust each one of them, accepting the fact that if someone wants to defraud you, she has to influence most or all of the women in that group. This is why I told earlier, trust factor in blockchain is distributed, as in a common Ailkutam or a kitty party. The concept of blockchain is with us from past so many years, but it was not known to us as blockchain. This or that way, we were using the concept of blockchain from early days of human evolution. But recently only, we gave a technical term to it and call as blockchain. Now let us discuss about the technicality of blockchain. Why it is called as blockchain. The concept of single universal ledger is actually the heart of blockchain. As I have already explained what is a ledger in normal financial transaction, normal businesses. Here also, the single universal ledger is said to be the heart of blockchain. You know that in a simple ledger entry, each page starts with a summary of its previous day's transactions. If you want to make changes in the current page, then you have to change the summary of the next page also. So we can say that each page in the ledger is linked to each other. Now think technically, each page of the ledger as block, and these blocks are linked, and obviously it is forming a chain of blocks, and thus the name blockchain. Blockchain elements. There are 4 elements that a blockchain needs to have its own life. For creating a blockchain, you need these 4 elements, and they are peer-to-peer network. The first thing that is needed to support a blockchain is a peer-to-peer network. It is a network of computers or nodes that are equally privileged. We need such network so that anyone or everyone can communicate with each other remotely. This is what we have in our internet. In case of the internet also, we have this peer-to-peer network. The second element that you need in the blockchain is the cryptography. Blockchain is this is protected by powerful cryptographic algorithms. So many cryptographic algorithms are there, and blockchain is protected by these cryptographic algorithms. Cryptography is needed for secure communication in blockchain. What do you mean by secure communication? What is cryptography? Why this cryptography is needed? This cryptography is needed for the secure communication, so that you know, in case of the peer-to-peer network, that means lot of thousands and thousands of computers are linked together, and in that computers, some participants are good participants and some participants are bad participants. What do you mean by bad participants? What do you mean by bad participants in this peer-to-peer network? The people who have bad intention, that is the hackers. Okay, so cryptography helps by verifying that the messages that I send in the network will reach the correct destination unaltered. What is the main duty of this cryptographic algorithm? It is going to secure the communication that happens from one end to the another end, so that what message I have sent in the network will reach the correct destination only, and that too without unaltered. Okay, the third element in the blockchain element is consensus algorithms. The third important thing is consensus algorithm. These are rules that we have to follow while adding a new block in the existing records. There are many algorithms that we follow, such as proof of importance is there, proof of stake algorithm is there, proof of activity is there. But in case of the Bitcoin blockchain, we are using proof of work algorithm. Proof of work states that if someone wants to earn the right to add a new block in the existing chain of blocks, then they have to find a solution for a mathematical problem, which requires high amount of computational power to solve. Computers or nodes around the network try hard to solve the math problem. That means nodes do a lot of work, and the computer or node that solve the math problem has to display the solution in the network, which is said to be the proof of work. That means when you are doing something very tough, when you have put your full effort for solving some problems, you are normally you will have to publicize your work. What is this? That is what proof of work indicates. That means you have solved the problem and you are displaying the solution in the network, that I have solved the problem. We have to use any of the consensus algorithms in a decentralized ledger. Otherwise, it becomes tough to reach to a consensus with so many people in the network. If we don't have any such consensus algorithms, it will be very difficult to have a consensus among so many people who are around the network. The last element in the blockchain is punishment and rewards. This element is actually derived from game theory, and it makes sure that it adheres to the people's interest and they are following the rules. We have set a network for secure communication and also reaches consensus with them. Now we reward those people who maintain our records to add new block in the blockchain. The reward is in the form of a token or coin. And as a punishment for the bad participants in the network, coins will be taken away from them. So when you are going to solve the math problem, you are getting a reward. And when you are when you are putting some bad impression in the network, the coins will be taken away from them. So blockchain is like a regular database. It is having some unique attributes such as decentralization. No single party control over the information that goes into the blockchain. There is no single party control. Next important or unique attribute is consensus. Nodes in the network store exact copies of ledger. So the majority has to agree on the new block to be added into the blockchain. If any new block is get added into the blockchain, all other nodes have to give their consensus. All other vote have to give their vote. Okay, you can add. Next is the add only. Data once added into the blockchain cannot be altered. That is, it is immutable. New information cannot conflict with what is already been added. Information is able to be accessed and replicated by everyone on the internet. The most important feature of blockchain is decentralization. Decentralization is the most important feature. Each node in the peer-to-peer network have an exact copy of blockchain ledger, and it is get updated after every transaction. This means there is no single or central point of control in the blockchain network to make any decisions. So now the next question is how blockchain works. Several applications of blockchain technology are available. Here, I'm taking Bitcoin transaction as example for explaining how a blockchain really works. Suppose I have one Bitcoin and you don't have any Bitcoin right now. I will be explaining what this Bitcoin is after some time. Let us think this is a coin. Suppose I have one Bitcoin and you don't have any Bitcoin right now. I want to send one Bitcoin to you. Bitcoin is just a digital currency. All the nodes or computers in the network will have a copy of transaction ledger. After this transaction, every ledger in the network gets updated. What was the situation? I had only one Bitcoin and I was sending one Bitcoin to you, and you didn't have any one earlier, and I had sent one Bitcoin to you. Okay, and all the nodes or computers in the network will have a copy of transaction ledger, and these are get updated also. What is the status of accounts now? What is the current status of accounts now? I had one, you didn't had earlier. So when I gave you one, so what is the current situation? I should not have any Bitcoin with me and you should have one Bitcoin with you. Yeah, I have 0 Bitcoin and you have 1 Bitcoin with you. Okay, suppose I want to defraud you and cheat others in the network, updating the copy of my ledger as 2 Bitcoins in my account, and out of these 2 Bitcoins, I sent 1 Bitcoin to you and 1 Bitcoin I need for myself for shopping purpose. So I just wanted to defraud you. Do you think I will be able to defraud you in case of the blockchain? You know the basic concept that all the nodes present in the blockchain have the exact copies of ledger. What the transaction already occurred earlier are already been updated in their respective ledgers. So do you think I will be able to defraud you? No. The answer is correct. No. So many responses are coming. Thank you for the responses. In the history of blockchain, this act of double spending has never happened. This is due to the powerful security that the blockchain offers in the network. Blockchains are so resistant to tampering and fraud. Let's see how it is possible in a blockchain. The information is stored on a blockchain as groups. Here you can see the blocks are being arranged. All these blocks are connected. They are linked to each other, and new block is just to get attached here. This is a simple example. This is a simple figure explaining the blockchain. Here each block is time stamped and linked to the one generated before it in time, creating a linear chain of blocks, and thus the name is blockchain. So you can see that when the new block comes, after having so many, solving all the constraints, this new block will get attached as a chain of blocks. Okay. Each block on the blockchain contains 3 types of information. You can see here there are 3 types of information that are stored in this block, in the block of the blockchain. Okay, so what are that 3 informations? First is the data on transaction. You can store any type of data in the block, any type of information you can store, and that information is termed as data. And second one is you can see one is a block hash is there, block hash. And next one is the hash of the previous block. Do you have any idea what is the term hash indicates? Any idea what is the term of hash indicates? This is a new term, key value pair, linked hash value. Okay, I hope some of you know about hash. This hash is on the block of a blockchain. It is a unique fingerprint for that particular block. You understand this much, that each block is having a unique ID, and that unique ID, we call that unique ID is as block hash. Okay, it identifies that particular block. This is a unique string of numbers which uniquely identifies the particular block, and also calculated based on the information stored in the block. Okay, so this how this hash is being calculated, how this unique identity is being calculated. This is a unique string of numbers which is used to uniquely identify the block, and that unique string of number is generated by the data stored in the block itself. Okay, also calculation is based on the information stored in the block. If any changes occur in that block, if suppose someone wants to change or alter the data, then its hash value also got changed accordingly, and thus changes the block's identity. The hash of the previous block also sits in each block. As I told, if you recollect the example of ledger, I have explained in the ledger that when you start the entry of, if you start a new day, and the new day will start with new entry, new page in the ledger book. So what you are going to do first, you are going to write the summary of the previous day transaction. Then you start the current day transaction. Okay, and this page will be holding different types of transactions that happen during that day. Okay, so when you give technical terms for this ledger, we will be taking this page as a block. Okay, so here also the hash of the previous block also sits in each block, which is what creates the chain of blocks and is what makes a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin so secure. Take a look at this figure. So you can see here there are 4 blocks are there, and this is block 1. It has got its own hash, unique hash ID. which is a unique string of numbers which has been calculated using the information stored in the data and some algorithms. Okay, and since this is the first data, this block is the first data of this blockchain, it does not have any previous hash value. You can see here it is 000. That 000 indicates this is the first block. Okay, so when you start a new ledger, you will be not having any previous transactions. So that is what it indicates. And this is the block 2. Here the hash value is 1D2A, and the previous, as I told you earlier, that the current block always have the hash of its previous block. So this arrow indicates, you can see clearly here that this block 2 contains the hash of the previous block also. Okay, hope this is clear to all of you. In case of the block 3, this is here also previous block hash is provided. In block 4 also previous hash block is provided. Okay, so each block contains the 3 elements as listed above. So but watch what happens when I try to tamper with the information in block 2 to give myself that extra Bitcoin. Suppose I want to tamper this block 2. Tamper in the sense I want to alter the data present in this block 2. Okay, so let us see what is going to happen. So after so much of effort, I have hacked the data present in this block 2. Suppose I did that. So what happens when I make any change in the data already present in the block, the hash of that corresponding block get changed automatically. You can see here the hash change, the value of hash value got changed automatically. Okay, so what happens? The block 3, in case of the block 3, the previous ID is 1D2A, but the new ID of block 2 is something else. So they got disconnected. The linkage is meaning everything in block 3 and beyond becomes invalid. It breaks the chain. Okay. So hope this is clear to you. We cannot tamper the data present in the block. Even if I would then need to recalculate the hashes of every block that has changed. So it is but it does not stop there. The Bitcoin network makes it intentionally difficult to find these hashes. How these hashes are, how you are getting these hashes, it is too difficult to find these hashes. On average, in case of the Bitcoin blockchain, the hash for a block is found every 10 minutes by computers, constantly guessing random numbers. Okay, on average, after 10 minutes, the hash value will get updated for each block. So it is too difficult for any hackers to hack the information present in the block in the blockchain. This process is called a proof of work and is done by powerful computers, which is called as miners. Okay, so for every block I stuffed up, it would take me 10 minutes of intense calculation to mine each block and find the correct hashes. And that's just for my copy of the ledger. The Bitcoin ledger, again, excuse me, again, someone has started sharing its own PPT. Is it visible? My PPT is visible to you? Please put yes or no.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Yes, it is visible, ma'am.
Okay.
Here, Aravind Dindi is sharing his screen, ma'am.
Hope that now it is visible clearly to all of you.
No, ma'am. No, madam.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Mr.
Okay.
Arvind has been sharing his presentation, ma'am.
Yes, I request Mr. Arvind for stop sharing your presentation. I will resume my presentation. Sorry for the delay.
No, correct only, ma'am. Available.
Available, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's so what I was explaining to you. On average, every 10 minutes, every computer is going to constantly guessing the hash for each block. Okay. So for each block I stuffed up, it would take me 10 minutes of intense calculation to mine each block and find the correct hashes. And that's just for my copy of the ledger. It is happening for my copy of the ledger. And you can imagine this Bitcoin ledger exists on thousands of computers all over the world. So to fake that transaction, I would need to somehow get access to over 50% of the computers and repeat the mining process for all the ledgers I control. This is insanely expensive from a computational standpoint, as I would need an almost impossible number of computers to pull it off. But by the time I did and was able to give myself Bitcoins at will, the rest of the network will have noticed. If suppose I did anyhow, I have cheated all of you, some 50% people, but the rest of the network will have noticed. They would either try to kick me off or would desert Bitcoin in droves, crashing the price and leaving me with control over a worthless currency. That is what I told you in the punishment and rewards blockchain element. So it is pretty easy to see that blockchains are incredibly resistant to fraud. So why blockchain is important? The next question is why blockchain is important. It is important in the situations where there is centralization problem. There we can use blockchain. So it becomes important in many areas. So wherever this centralization problem is there, and if you want to remove that problem, you are going to, it is better to use blockchain there. So blockchain in a nutshell. Here you can say blockchain is a time-stamped series of immutable records of data managed by a cluster of computers, secured. It's having a lot of cryptographic principles, and blockchain contains different types and flavors of blockchain. You can see lot of flavors of blockchains are available. Bitcoin is there, Ether is there, Litecoin is there, and so many other flavors are available. So you can see this is a figure. What all I have explained, this is covering here. In case of the blockchain, I have explained to you what is a blockchain with the history of ledger. I have explained what is the reward, what is miner, proof of work, transaction, distributed, ledger, confirmation, node, and block. So before now, the next thing is what is Bitcoin. So before going into the depth of Bitcoin, let's see some of the basic concepts of Bitcoin. You know the value of 1 rupee coin. What is the value of 1 rupee coin? It is 1 rupee. And the value of
PPT is not visible.
Sorry, that is what happening. Someone start sharing. Participants are doing that.
Ma'am, for us it's visible.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what is the, I was telling you, what is the value of 1 rupee coin? So 1 rupee coin means it is 1 rupee. Okay, the value of 1 rupee coin, if you have 1 rupee coin with you, it is 1 rupee. And what will be the value of $1? In today if you can search the net, you can find that the value of $1 is 75 rupees approximately. And there is a value of 1 Bitcoin. As I told you earlier, that this Bitcoin is a digital currency. And you know what is the value of 1 Bitcoin in US dollar? It is around 12,000 US dollar. That means around 9 lakh Indian rupee. Okay. So why is so? What is a Bitcoin? What is a Bitcoin mining? How can we earn money through Bitcoin mining? Why the whole world is running to invest in mining? Is it impossible to hack Bitcoin? I request participants, please mute your mic. We need insights on all these questions. Now come to the main term Bitcoin.
Ma'am, a lot of noise is there.
Yeah, somebody has unmuted.
Gulfisha Wasim is not muted. Gulfisha Wasim.
Please support, please don't make noises, please mute your mic. We need insights on all these questions. Now come to the main term Bitcoin. Like in India, rupee is used for money. In India, we are using, for the purpose of money, we are using rupee. In case of America, what is what are you doing? What are you using? We are using a dollar for money. Similarly, in internet, Bitcoin is used for money. Internet, we are using Bitcoin for money transactions. If there is no internet, there will be no Bitcoin. Okay, so that is what with the Bitcoin case. Now the question is, who coined this term Bitcoin? Bitcoin is first coined by an anonymous person or a group of persons named Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008. This person is an anonymous person. We don't know whether this is a single person or a group of person. In 2008, a research paper was published and named as Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. In that paper, Satoshi Nakamoto has explained everything about Bitcoin. After this research paper, people around the world ran towards Bitcoin. Still, it is a mystery whether this Satoshi Nakamoto is a single person or a group of person. We don't have any idea. When I searched internet, I found it may be possible that Satoshi Nakamoto is a group of people named Samsung, Toshiba, Nakamichi, and Motorola. You can see the bold letter characters that I've given there. In the Samsung, the first 2 characters. In the Toshiba, the first 5 characters. Nakamichi, the first 4 characters. And in case of the Motorola, the first 4 characters. And if you read all together, you will get the name Satoshi Nakamoto. Don't know whether it is true or not. Bitcoin is basically a currency. It is basically a currency which is digital and which uses cryptography. And that is why we also termed it as digital cryptocurrency. The other name for Bitcoin is digital cryptocurrency. And this Bitcoin is open source. That means the volunteers across the world, they are contributing into the Bitcoin technology. So much of development is happening in the Bitcoin world. It is not just a currency. It is a whole set of technology that we can use. If you want to know more about the code format of Bitcoin, just go to GitHub and search for Bitcoin. You can find all the sources regarding the Bitcoin. If you want to know more about Bitcoin, you will find a huge repository for Bitcoin here in this URL. Bitcoin is also a technology and it has 4 parts. The first one is it is a decentralized peer-to-peer network, which is also in your Bitcoin protocol. The second one is it maintains a public ledger, that is blockchain. The third one, it needs some rules, which is also known as consensus rule. And the fourth one is proof of work. How can you make sure that the transaction is complete? How can you authenticate it? How exactly Bitcoin looks like? Something like an Indian coin or a dollar? No, it looks like nothing. Bitcoin only works in virtual world. What can we do with Bitcoin? You know what can you do with Bitcoin? Can you buy products using Bitcoin? We can sell products. Yes, we can buy products, we can sell products, and also you can convert the Bitcoin into real currency. And you can also convert a real currency into a Bitcoin. Suppose if you want to buy a Bitcoin now, what you have to do now? You have to pay around $12,000, and we don't have that much of amount right now. So what can you do? My next question is, if you have $1 now, can you buy a Bitcoin? Yes, you can buy a Bitcoin, because the smallest unit of a Bitcoin is also called a Satoshi. The smallest unit, you can see here, 1 Bitcoin is equal to 100 million Satoshi. Okay, the smallest unit of a Bitcoin is known as Satoshi. So if you want to convert that into dollar, that means, say you have only $1 now and you want to buy Bitcoin. So you can buy approximately 8,333 Satoshi approximately. And suppose if you have 1 rupee only, then also you can buy Bitcoin. You can buy approximately 111 Satoshi. Now the next question is, who actually creates Bitcoin? Because in our real world, we have authorities who prints money. Then what about Bitcoins? Bitcoin is created by a process known as mining. What is mining and who will do this mining? Mining is done by miners. Now the question is, who are miners? Here is a helpful analogy to consider to understand mining and miners. Say, I tell 3 friends that I am thinking of a number between 1 and 100, and I write that number on a piece of paper and seal it in an envelope. Suppose you have a situation, you are telling your 3 friends that you are going to assume, you are going to think about a number between 1 and 100, and you are writing one number on a piece of paper, okay, and seal it in an envelope. My friends don't have to guess the exact number. They just have to be the first person to guess any number that is less than or equal to the number I am thinking of. And there is no limit to how many guesses they get. Let's say I am thinking of the number 19. If friend A guesses 21, they lost because 21 is greater than 19. If friend B guesses 16 and friend C guesses 12, then they have both theoretically arrived at viable answers because 16 is less than 19 and 12 is less than 19. There is no extra credit for friend B, even though B's answer was closer to the target answer of 19. Now imagine I pose the guess what number I am thinking of. But I am not asking just 3 friends. I am not thinking of any number between 1 and 100. Rather, I am asking millions of would-be miners, and I am thinking of a 64-digit hexadecimal number. Now you see that it is going to be extremely hard to guess the right answer. Finding the random number nouns is a puzzle, and time taking to find the number is difficult. Now, the next is the types of blockchain. So here are 3 types of blockchains are there. Public blockchain is there, private blockchain is there, and hybrid blockchain is there. Any idea what is a public blockchain? Please respond in the chat box.
Ma'am, PPT is not visible, ma'am.
PPT is not visible. Okay, I will check. Someone is trying to share his own presentation. That is what this hindrance is happening. Hope now this is clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So the types of blockchain are public blockchain, private blockchain, and hybrid blockchain. So yeah, Amit Kumar, you are telling the correct answer that all people have access. In case of the public blockchain, it is just like an internet, okay, which is open to all. You can relate public blockchain to internet. It is open to all. And what is about private blockchain? Yes, as the word indicates, a private blockchain is a blockchain which is limited to a few selected players. We can say that it is like an intranet, not open to all. Okay, so public blockchain is open to all, so we can relate public blockchain to internet, and private blockchain is limited to a few participants only. So we can relate private blockchain to an intranet. That is, it is not open to all. Okay, so next is what is hybrid blockchain. So as the name comes, it tells you this is a combination of private and public chain. Correct? It combines the privacy benefits of permissioned and private blockchain with the security and transparency benefits of a public blockchain. This gives businesses significant flexibility to choose what data they want to make public and transparent and what data they want to keep private. Okay, in case of the hybrid, you have the option to it is flexible. That means you can choose what data you want to make it public and transparent, and what data you want to keep it as private. Okay, so hope these I am just giving a small idea related to this public, private and hybrid. It is a vast area. You can go into the depth later on. So all these are the three types of blockchains. Next, when you compare features of public blockchain, here features of first feature is no single point of failure. So as I told you, you relate this public blockchain with internet. So what is it? Indicates no single point of failure. Immutable, also known as a tamper proof. Tamper proof. Okay, so the second feature of public blockchain is immutable. That means also known as tamper proof. That means we cannot alter the data present in the blockchain. Third feature is censorship resistant. So you cannot really remove a record or stop it from getting published as long as it follows the consensus rules. Okay, so these are the features of public blockchain. Now, in this table, you can see it is differentiating between the public blockchain and private blockchain. So it is open to all. And in case of the public blockchain, so we can relate it to internet. It is borderless. It's a transactional and borderless, censorship resistant, no third party is there, and it is neutral. What do we mean by neutral? Neutral means there is no such thing like good, bad, legal or illegal. Here only two words are applied in blockchain, that is valid or invalid transactions. Okay. So in case of the private blockchain, you can see it is limited to authorized participants only, and they are governed by few entities. So you can relate private blockchain to intranet. Okay. Next, the conclusion part. So I was sharing what I know about blockchain in a very simple way. Hope if 1% of my session is clear to you, then I am successful. Okay, so here, as I told you, this blockchain technology is very good at decentralizing, but it is also very inefficient, slow, and energy consuming. Okay, so how you are going to prove that it is inefficient, slow, and energy consuming? Let us take one example. Bitcoin's network takes 10 minutes on average to confirm a transaction. As I told you earlier, that if you want to do any Bitcoin transaction, it will take minimum of 10 minutes for that transaction to complete. It is not the ideal way to buy a cup of coffee at a restaurant using this Bitcoin technology. The only way to choose blockchain technology as your solution is if your problem is actually centralization. If you don't need decentralize something, you probably don't need to use blockchain technology. So where there is the centralization problem, and if you want to solve that centralization problem, go for blockchain technology. Otherwise, no need to go with the blockchain technology. Any questions? You can type.
Yes, ma'am, is it legal in India for transacting?
Right now in India, it is not coming to the full swing, but after 10 to 15 years, we will all be using blockchain technology.
Any areas of application, ma'am, as of now in India?
In the healthcare also you can see blockchain technology is used. So in so many areas, not in India, but abroad.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, personally, I just want to ask you one last question. What is this like? Are these all interrelated? Blockchain, machine learning, and all.
Blockchain and machine learning. They are we have new technology, distributed machine learning. They are in their machine learning, distributed machine learning, you will find blockchain as well as machine learning also. In many areas, we are clubbing this machine learning technology and blockchain technology.
Okay, ma'am. In order to learn this blockchain and all, what are the good courses available, ma'am, for a commerce student? I'm not a computer or techie.
You
Just
can go
I'm
for
a
Coursera courses. You
doctoral
can go for
student.
Coursera courses are there. A lot of videos you can find.
Okay, ma'am. Like placement opportunity oriented courses, ma'am.
Placement opportunity. You can ask all these questions in my private number or in my mail. Okay, it will be good.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you.
Yes.
And one, dear participants, this feedback link will be provided just within a few minutes. You have to fill the feedback link, then only you will get the e-certificates. So I hope everything is okay. Over to the college.
Thank you, ma'am, for your fruitful session. It was very informative and wonderful session. I think it a great honor to deliver the vote of thanks in this occasion. First of all, I thank God Almighty for the blessings showered upon this day. It's my proud and privilege to thank our college chairman, His Grace Dr. Thomas Martimotheos Metropolitan, for gracing today's international webinar. Thank you very much, His Grace, for the valuable and thought-provoking address. I would like to express our profound gratitude to our respected manager, Sri M.K. Skaria, for his valuable support. I would like to thank our principal, Professor Srijesh S., for his support. I would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Ms. Raji Ramakrishnan Nair, for making excellent presentations and making this international webinar blockchain a grand success and meaningful one. Now, I thank our beloved HOD, Mr. Thomas Abraham, for his moral support and guidance. I am happy to express thanks to our faculties, Department of Computer Applications, Holy Cross College of Management and Technology, Puchadi, and all the other faculties of our college who have made this international webinar a successful one. Last but not least, I thank all the participants from all over the world for joining this international webinar and made it as a worthwhile one. Once again, I thank you all for your cordial cooperation. Thank you. Okay, I thank our distinguished speaker, Raji Ramakrishnan Nair, for your valuable time with us and for your wonderful session today. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, college management. Thank you all the participants who have joined for this webinar. And if you have any doubt, you can send your queries to raji.nair@mariancollege.org. Thank you for the coming and joining this session. The Google form is already given to you, shared to you here for the feedback. Please put your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, Department of Computer Applications of Holy Cross College of Management and Technology, Puchadi, proudly presents an international level e-quiz. All the participants are requested to check out the WhatsApp group for the prescribed link. Feedback link already provided. Please go through it and fill it, and with the manual subscription, you will receive the e-certificates. Great. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you, Raji ma'am, for the session and for being with us today. Thank you. In spite of your busy schedule, you have been with us. Thank you for your wonderful session. Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, only 100 certificates are provided for one link. So next link has been given. If you didn't receive your certificate means, please go through the next link. Thank you.